This is Dan Max at eXp Realty, aka the Trading Agent, and this is your live market recap for, Wednesday. It's October 4th, 2023. Hopefully you're doing well. This is going to be a life-changing video. I want to talk about some things that, as well as the market, that I think I can start pulling out of people if they're ready to be vulnerable and available to open their mind to a lot of things, because as you become aware of your own tendencies in trading, you'll start to see that everything revolves around some sort of prior experience, trauma, or past. And the only thing holding you back from succeeding in the market is yourself. I try to explain this to people all the time. Like, the market's going to do what it's going to do. But can you stick to your plan? Can you maintain discipline? Can you define your risk? Can you throw in the towel if you don't sense something is correct? And a lot of that, as most people understand and don't understand, is very intense stuff. And so, on that note, I kind of want to get into that today, but in the first 20, 30 minutes before the market closes, and then I'll do the live. I'll review all the charts, but I want to take 30 minutes now to talk about some really deep things that I think a lot of people are not realizing about themselves. If you have any questions, again, please jump in. Again, this channel is always about helping people trade better, identify the best trades, how to trade. Just, again, how are you going to take, it doesn't matter. You can start with $5,000. I've turned $5,000 into 50 many times with options, and then also while sit back. How are you going to take your capital, respect it, and do with it what you need to do? Because everyone has a plan until they get shot in the face, right? Or as they say in war, everyone has a plan until the guns start firing, right? So that is kind of the premise of what I want to start talking about. Again, if you want to fast forward to, say 2 o'clock time frame for this video, will be obviously 30 minutes from now, go ahead. But if you really want to stick around for what I consider to be the most important parts of trading, because again, there's always a million trades. I try to explain this to people all the time. There's always another trade. There's always another trade. It's the Waffle House, open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's always going to be open, right? And so if you want to trade tomorrow, you can. You want to trade futures, you can. You want to trade currencies, you can. You can trade. There's always something to do, but here's the thing. How does one become so diligent, so self-reliable to make and choose to do what the right things are? And how do you know those things, right? Because I think a lot of people will, again, pretend in their mind somehow that trading is difficult. They're superstitious. They have all of these preconceived notions that are wired in them from, I guess you could say, money, there are money issues that are wired into people, but your preconceived notions since you started learning the market. If you read some books and those were the first books you read about trading, you started believing that the market's this and the market's that, and you can't time the market, and fundamentals this and fundamentals that, and blah, 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 blah. Bunch of crap. It's a bunch of crap. Again, the market, as we've talked about, if you've read the Livermore book, if you read volume price analysis, it's very simple. Ultimately, it's to take the most amount of money from the most amount of people. And if you can understand that as a basis and not be offended by it and not hate it and not create resentments, it's like going to the casino, right? If you go to the casino and you lose, do you get mad? Do you get mad? No. Because you went to gamble and you can lose. Well, why, if you don't have any consciousness of your own actions, decide to trade the market and then just go, oh, I'm mad because I lost? Well, everybody loses. No one is immune to it. Look at oil trade. I was praying and hoping it would pop to short more. We were right about the bigger trend, but look what it did. It just is what it is. Are we mad? No. Are we going to let it bother us? Are we going to chase it? Are we going to go long it? No, you missed the trade. There's no more emotion other than that. It's like coming to this instantaneous gratification of you were right, but you were wrong. And that's kind of what all trades are, right? If you think about it from the bigger perspective, more than likely you were just early. Or you left it alone and you were wrong. Great. You have to reconstitute your thinking. Now, just as we're going through this, is this too much for people? Because again, I think sometimes this is the hardest effing part of trading. Like we could sit here and look at like double tops and look at the formations and volume and the action. Do that. That's why the back to basics videos. I've got 62 of them. The time of the year, the first 3 business days of the month. You got the calendar. Should be bullish today. Are you surprised? I said in the Discord room. Are you surprised if maybe tomorrow we also have a little more follow through up? No. Are you going all in short? If you are adding shorts, hopefully not. Some names are worse than others. Again, tech is rallying on the dollar down and bonds up and oil down, clearly. But is that going to be a new trend? We don't know. And so this is the stuff that I want to talk about. Because Eric's been around. Appreciate you jumping in here. Like, you understand this so well. And if you can define your risk and walk away, think about what that tells about yourself. You're not scared of losing. It's the people who can't put stops in and can't define the risk and go, what if, and what if that happens? Oh, God. And then when it happens, they go, oh, and they start overthinking. And this is the kind of stuff that I want to talk to people about, because a lot of people don't realize that their own weaknesses relate to the same things in their lives, right? Well, say you've wanted to get in shape. I know this is hypothetical, but what stops you? The inner voices. Well, what stops you from having amazing discipline in trading? It's the inner voices. And this is what we need to talk about. And this is what I'm trying to get people to realize. And this is stuff that I've always understood, but I'm continuing to learn about it more because because it's the best way that I can help you guys. I start realizing, I'm like, I can give you great trades, but can you execute them? What happens if I give you a trade that's wrong? Can you execute that? Like, you got to ask yourself why I do this and why I want to help people, but also want people to realize, like, you got to be totally owning. If you're following me and I'm wrong, it happens. But if you're doing your own trades, can you have the same type of discipline? And you should be able to, because that's the foundation of your trading. Because if you can't do that on any level, stop trading, first of all. And so if you're on that level and you want to talk about it, you have the reign to talk to me right now. If you don't, well, then I'm going to go through exactly what I do and how I reset for the first couple minutes, and then we'll go into the charts in about 25 minutes. How's that sound? Anyone want to be brave enough to be vulnerable and talk about issues? Because again, I mean, all issues kind of revolve around the same kind of thing on how they start, how they're executed, and why they happen. If not, all right, I'm just going to jump into it. So 90% of trading is mental, right? Like, you can identify on a chart a situation, right? Like, here, let's just pull up oil, right? Notice where it's stopped this morning or today. Talk about shorting it up here. Safety trade. Again, we know the psychology. Everyone's piling in, hoping that the market will just somehow not go down, will go down and oil won't, right? Like, there's such thing as demand destruction. We saw it today in the gasoline demand numbers, right? Like storage. It's coming, right? Like, there's a recession coming. We all know that, right? But again, how it plays out is the hard part. It can be tricky. Well, the average person at the highs, knowing this stuff, what is the voices that they hear in their head to not short this? Right? Like, what are the voices that stop you from doing what you think might be a good trade? What are the voices that stop you from creating instincts on how to trade? Have you thought about that? Because if you haven't thought about that, those voices are actually running your decision-making processes. And people don't realize that. Those voices are no different than the voices that say you can't get in shape and why you don't deserve this and why you don't. And again, it's the same effing stuff, y'all. It's the same stuff. Because again, I've noticed, like, wow, I can execute trading, but like, why did I, like, those voices, I'm very in control of them. And so I've been looking at other parts of my life and going, oh shit, we're all wired the same way, right? The subconscious is running the programming. So think of it again as the onion. The onion, the center of it is the subconscious, and then all the programs wrapped around it are supporting these beliefs that are wrapped inside the onion, right? And so at some point, you have to look at why and how. And so the first things that I do if I'm struggling in trading, I don't get superstitious. I step back and I review my trades. I go, why did this happen? Right? Like I've told people before, like at one of my lowest points, like I'd lost 20 times in a row. And I thought to myself, if I can lose 20 times in a row, I can win 20 times. Like that tells me like you are clearly doing something wrong, executing wrong, that you're always wrong. That's pretty damn impressive, actually. Think about it. Like, flipping coin 20 times and all hitting heads, like you must have some sort of talent. And so I looked at it from a perspective of like, okay, well, what was I doing wrong in all those things? So the first thing is stop. Look at what's going on. Like, why? Why did you have in the mindset that something was happening the way it was, and why it didn't happen? And okay, what were you doing? Well, 90% of mine were just, you're fighting the trend, Dan. It was literally as simple as the trend was going down and you were going long. Trend's going up, you were going down. So if you can you think about that from the basic level? Like that's why it's easier to short right now. And when people are like, oh, I want to go long, or I'm looking, I don't want to fight the trend, because when I have, like, I'm putting myself at a lower probability mindset potentially. And again, the trend is your friend, right? And so if you're looking at, like, say, oil inflection point, well, what did we talk about? Well, it was due to bounce with OPEC. Now, again, we didn't short after yesterday, took those off, but it's still a winning trade. And so do I sit here with remorse and I go back and look at it and go, well, I need to jump in it now that it's failing? No, I'm going to wait for a bounce. Like, I have emotional control. Like, do you not think that there's a voice inside of you, me, and everybody who's traded oil today not going, damn, I wish I would have shorted more. Okay, well, shit, you know what? I'm going to short more. Or I'm going to add the trade back. And that voice, whether you understand it or not, potentially is what? Based on some sort of mental weakness, right? Like, your self-worth is defined by whether you make money trading or not. And this is why I tell people have been around, do not, and again, this is Gary Williams was one of the coaches in trading that I saw in North Carolina growing up. And the one thing he always told people, he's like, don't define your trading by your balance, because that is the true mirror. But ask yourself, are you trading well? Are you trading well based on the knowledge that you have, based on the circumstances of what's going on? Because you don't know everything. So you can't just sit here and say, good, if you're winning or losing, that, like that defines you all the time. Because sometimes it's not going to be that easy. But he defined it in the same thing that I do. Did you follow your rules? Did you define your stops? Did you execute your trades? Did you do what you thought was the right thing based on logic, evidence, and not emotion? How simple does that sound, right? But how many people can actually do that? Ask yourself that. Why do you struggle? Again, I wish somebody was willing to speak up and say, like, this is what I struggle with. But I call this stuff out constantly when people bring up certain trades, and it revolves around similar issues that everybody has. Like, certain people are wired to that they can only go long stocks. They can't short. Where did that belief come from? If the market goes up a third of the time, sideways a third of the time, and down a third of the time, which, again, that's not really true. I would think, maybe on a like intraday basis, potentially, but you know what I mean? Like, why can't you short? Like, why can't you change your mind? Like, ask yourself these questions. Like, go inside your mind and listen to the voice, right? Because I'm telling you, that voice needs to be heard and not followed. There's a huge difference. And people are like, what the fuck are you talking about? No, you need to let that voice speak to you so your higher self can hear it, so that it doesn't actually execute if that's not what you want. Like, when people say, oh, I can't short, or I can't, like, why? It doesn't matter. You're trying to make money here. That's like going to the casino and saying, well, I'm always just going to bet on red. Is it always red on the roulette table? No. Do you see, like, these predetermined beliefs are so stupid, we can't even become aware of them. Everyone has these. And I'm just picking on people who say they can only go long. Does this make sense? Like, there is a voice below your consciousness. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's the voices that are running in your head constantly, all day. These voices about your trading, your thoughts about yourself, and everything else involved are actually controlling your actions. So the folks that say like, oh, it's really hard for me to set stops. Why does that voice say that? And again, remember, all mechanisms like this are usually created for self-preservation, right? To alleviate pain. Well, what's more painful sometimes is missing out on a big trade that you thought you're going to get rich on, like Bitcoin, right? Like some people are like, oh, if I just wouldn't have, just would have held Bitcoin, or if I just would have held Apple, if I just would have held that one stock. Well, now you're trying to put that same belief on every trade. Is that logical? And here's like how I try to equate it to real life. That's like saying you dated someone with blonde hair, they treated you badly, and all blondes are mean people. But you see how the brain can correlate things very easily for protection mechanisms. Does this make sense? Can I get a hell yeah? So can you see why like your own faulty wiring is sometimes just literally being as dumb as all blondes are mean, or all people with big feet are assholes? Like, I mean, again, your brain is correlating things on the simplest level, and it's ignoring logic. Because again, it's based on emotions and feelings. And if you had a trade that you missed out on and you didn't use stops, because I'll stick to the stops, like, because people are like, oh, stops are for rookies, for noobs. No. Stops are for pros too. You are equating some simplistic form of a rule to self-preservation, or because you missed out on something. And I'm telling you right now, if you listen to this voice, it'll tell you exactly why it believes that. And if you let this voice speak, and this is the thing, a lot of people are like, I can't believe that. No. I got to shut the voices off. Remember, all these inner subconscious feelings and thoughts and voices are deeper than just the voice itself, right? It's some sort of emotional energy level in your heart, in your body, somewhere. And so if it keeps coming up, it's not just a thought. Does this make sense? Can I get a hell yeah? It's just not a thought, right? It's a belief. A belief is more tangible in your body, in your mind, in your, I guess, your soul, heart, whatever, than just a thought. And so if you have this same belief pattern repeating itself, you have to talk to this belief. They call this shadow work, inner child work, whatever you want to call it. You got to understand why this belief is wired inside of you. Because if you don't let it speak and you don't understand it and you try to repress it, well, in the midst of the fire, it just comes out and like takes over. Because it's literally like the fire alarm. In case of emergency, pull this mechanism that kicks in, and you instantly will do that every time, and you're not even aware of it. And your body, all of a sudden, you can't breathe. Next thing you know, you're frustrated. Your brain goes wired, and you're like, what do I do? Because again, the self-preservation mechanism kicks in, and all of a sudden, it's just like brain mush. When the reality is, how do you release that? Does anyone run into this? Again, I appreciate any interaction. Again, don't be scared, because again, if you are not vulnerable here, you might get the most amount of learning here by just asking the question. Because I'm telling you right now, there's tons of people who are just, they look at the market as the problem. They don't look at themselves as the problem. Like, oh, Meta is the problem. It keeps chopping around, pissing me off. Okay, I mean, I can edit. Google, it's going higher. It's pissing me off. Okay. No, I mean, these names they have nothing. They have no emotion. They're not emotion. They don't have any personality in the sense of what they are. It's just a game. It's just a game. It's like being mad at the poker gods if you don't get aces every time. Like, that's just stupid. That's incredibly unintelligent. That's superstitious. That's crap. Does this make sense, though? That this is what we're doing. We are imprinting our beliefs on the market versus trying to do what the market's going to do. That's why I joke at some of the people who are like, oh, check out Walgreens, check out these shitty stocks. I don't know. I know why I don't look at them. I've made that same mistake 1,000 times. Oh, I'm going to trade something that doesn't move with the market, and then it doesn't move with the market, and then I get pissed off. And then I get pissed off, and then I'm looking to chase, and the next thing you know, I'm going down the stupid spiral of trying to catch up for months or weeks of missed time. Eric, absolutely run into that. Confidence in the heat of the moment is tough. Pre-planning and writing it down or settling resting stops. Exactly. You are literally creating a plan in your mind before it happens. But again, that's honestly the most important thing you do. But how do you allow yourself to do that? That's what I think a lot of people don't realize, is that, do you have to write it down? Sure. That's important. But do you need to? Can you get to a point where you're so unattached it doesn't matter? You're more interested in preserving capital than making money. Because when you're right, making money takes care of itself. Preserving capital is the only way to win. And so ultimately, if you are allowing yourself and these voices to create narratives like, and again, Scott's in here, and I'm going to relate to him because I remember this, like, as a novice trader. This stock is cheap. It's down a ton. Oh, the narratives. I'm starting to read the news. I think it's a buyout target. You start believing this narrative that somehow you're smarter than the market. And it's like, it's just a penny stock. It's a piece of shit. But then all it takes is 1 out of 10 times where you bought that piece of junk stock, or you bought that dog and it turned into a diamond. And so now everything you think is trash is diamonds. That's the problem. And that becomes a subconscious belief because you got rewarded for doing the wrong things. And that's where I keep trying to warn people, like, you got to be very careful for getting rewarded for doing the wrong things in the market. Because when you continue to do the wrong things and they lead you to wins, it doesn't do you any service in the long run. Well, I'll trade this stock. It's not a leader. Okay, well, good luck. Good luck. What's the narrative? Oh, I'm reading that it's a buyout target. Or I read some narrative in the news. Uh-oh. Now it's in the news? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Okay, well, maybe. Maybe be the contrarian. Right? Like oil, for example. Like, that's why we have it up. Does this make sense? What I'm trying to explain to people? Like, your preconceived notions are the problems here. And if you find yourself making the same mistakes, you got to not just go, well, it's the market, or no, let these emotions and feelings and beliefs play out in your mind. Let them talk. Give them a voice. Like, I know that for me, like, I have one of my inner voices is my childhood version of myself, Danny. That's like how I talk to him. And this is, again, like a shadow work kind of thing. Like, this scared child version of yourself. Or maybe it's an adult version that lost money, and that this person was a reckless gambler that ended up losing thousands, tens of hundreds of millions of dollars. It doesn't matter. And this version of you sometimes is in control. And what is he or she doing? Making mistakes constantly. Like, you have to realize that is you. That is you. Does this make sense? That is you. And if you can't acknowledge that in yourself, oh man, you are going to continue to make the same stupid mistakes over and over and over, because you have to confront any weakness inside of you, because it's not the market, it's not anything else on the outside. If it's a reoccurring pattern, it's all your fault. And it always will be. And that actually gives you the power to realize, well, maybe I can change something. Like, how many times has somebody changed and said, well, so say example, like the market's trapping into the close. They've never seen a trap before. So they all go in all or nothing all the time. But now they start layering in and they go, whoa. I see why Dan says that, because if I go in all at once, I'm defining my risk based on right now. And sometimes right now isn't the top or the bottom. Why not I give myself a potential to layer in and just see what happens? Once you get confident in that, you don't sit here and go, I'm the genius of the market, and I'm picking the bottom and the top with 100% certainty because I'm going all in. No. I don't do that, because I learned when I do that, what am I also doing? I'm putting pressure on myself. I'm going to put myself in a position to think that has to be right. That gambler mentality. Let's roll the dice and see what happens. Well, what if you get in small, and then again, you say maybe the market retests highs tomorrow. What if you got in smaller today and then the market gaps up huge and you have all your capital? Now you're down a ton versus like, down a little bit. I can add here and define my risk and really smash it. Or if you just stop out and you say, all right, I'll observe and just see what happens. Maybe I'm wrong. The rules that I have put in place for the friends that are listening, you either understand them because they come all from mistakes that everybody makes. And everybody makes the same mistakes because the market's really good at getting people to do what? The same dumb shit over and over and over and over and over again. Until you realize it's your fault and how to fix it, you, again, are talking, you're just pissing in the wind, and it's just blowing right back in your face. Eric, it's always my fault. Even if I start thinking it's something else, I can rethink it such that it points to me. And that is correct. I have always traded differently if something went wrong. Yeah. You're also able to recognize within yourself, like, something doesn't seem right. Like, you're able to create this intuition as well. Because now your intuition is based on, like, what? Experience versus, like, just wiring. Like, remember, like, think about it again. You're wiring. If you continuously lose and have lost more than you win, or you have reoccurring issues, your wiring is a self-protection mechanism that you're not understanding. It's trying to tell you to stop doing it, but it's also addicted to the emotional rush. Remember the dopamine, the feelings of maybe I'll be right this time if I do the wrong thing. Why do women and men date people that have no desire to be with them? To prove themselves, and you're doing it to the fucking market. You're trying to prove the market that you're going to be right. You have to be right. You have to be right, right? Like, think about it. Like, why some people, for example, men will date women, women will date men. They'll go on a date, and the other person will be just not interested. And they will just go after them even harder. Oh, this person can't reject me. I can't lose in the market. No. I have to imprint upon myself that this is how it's going to happen. And the market's going to drop right here, right now, and get the hell out of my way. Okay, you're a little crazy. Do y'all see this? Like, we're all like this. And this is why I love talking about this stuff, because I understand it. It's trading. Learning to trade is easy. Trading is hard. It's really that simple. And so, again, it's not even necessarily about ego. It's about subconscious wiring. And the ego is just continuing to play the record. The ego is the voice of the subconscious, essentially, especially the lower version of yourself. Because, again, it's all protection mechanisms, fight or flight. And that's why I will continuously be honest with people. And I'm like, that trade makes no sense. And then they get pissed and they're like, well, it doesn't fit my rules. And it's like, yeah, because your rules are what? Probably a little too loose. Maybe your personality is different. Fine. I don't care. But I'm trying to show you how to, like, the rules that will ultimately make you money over long term and be, I don't know, a trade easier. Don't you want trading to be easier? Do you want to sit at the computer all day trying to figure out every fucking move of the market all 6 hours? No. Trust me. Again, these people, I don't get them. They can't even see that, but they are signing themselves up for absolute purgatory. And the only reason why I know, been there. Yeah, well, I feel the need to chase or what we can't have. Well, again, Scott, and this is a great question, and I'm telling you right now, the easy answer, it's so easy. You have to ask your inner voice. You got to talk to that voice that says, I want you to act. I want you to chase something. No, you got to step back and go, why do I need to chase? What validation am I getting from doing this action? Do y'all see this? Because that's what you're actually chasing is validation. But what is the validation? Ego, like confidence? Is it the money? Is it the recognition? Is it you want someone to tell you how well you did? Think about it. Like, that's the thing. Talk to the voice. Like, why? And again, and you can relate it right back to like what Scott's talking about, like chasing a girl that doesn't want you, for example, Scott or I. Why would I chase a girl that doesn't want to be with me? What does that say more about me? And so you see how, like, when it comes down to it, like, again, that's why you have your rules in trading. It's no different. Yes, it's all about self-worth. Agreed. But there's some part of you that you have to talk to that has this weird pattern of belief of self-worth that you don't realize, right? And it's no different in trading. Oh, I got to buy trash stocks. I got to be all or nothing trading. I don't use stops. Well, if I'm wrong, I'm just going to disappear for a little bit and just let the trade play out. Like, think about all these destructive patterns. Or I'm going to try to overtrade all day and see if I can, like, have 10 winning trades today. Like, what does that say about you that you have to, like, try to predict every intraday move of the market? What does that say about you? Maybe not necessarily always about lack of self-respect or self-worth, but it sounds more about, like, you just have to be right. Well, if you're an alpha, A-type, that's part of your wiring. That's some people. That's me. Oh, like, that's how I used to be. Like, oh, I got to be right all the time. Knock on wood. Going to change that. Always aware of that. Hopefully this is life-changing for people, because this is the stuff that I think people don't understand. Like, what's that voice that says, I have to chase? Or, we missed oil, I have to short it now. Right? Or what if it just goes lower too? Who cares? Like, just what happens? What if you miss a trade? What does that say about you if you let it bother you? It says that you can't find other trades, right? You don't have the patience, right? You don't believe in yourself. You got to talk to yourself. I'm telling you guys right now, if you're going to sustain yourself as trading as a way of income versus a way of donating, these are the things that you got to figure out. And again, it's all tailored to style. Some people love the day trade. Again, I just don't have the patience for day trading anymore, because again, I don't want my whole day surrounding what happens every tick. Does this make sense? Because this is where the real money meets the road, like the pavement, right? Like, it's all in executing. But if you're having blocks to your own execution, I'm telling you, stop, take a minute, review that trade mentally, think about the reasons why you made a decision. That's why we talk about, if you don't have a trading journal, what are you doing? What are you doing? Oh, Shannon, you got that book? Yeah, Untethered Soul. Great. You just realize we're literally just a meat puppet to the voices inside. And somebody told me that joke, and after they read it too, because literally you are a meat puppet. Those voices are controlling you. On a conscious level, you know what's right, what's wrong, what you should and shouldn't do. But if you were wired incorrectly, you literally will make the same mistakes. And again, I don't want to pick on anyone who's an alcoholic, but if you have an alcohol problem, right, obviously it's hard to quit because it affects your body too. Or say you just want to get in shape. Like, why can't you go to the gym? Why can't you just stop drinking if you know it's good for you? Well, it's no different in trading. Like, if you know using stops is good for you, defining your risk is good for you, layering in is good for you, why can you not do it? Because the inner voices, your subconscious wiring that you are not understanding is actually in control, and you have to go into your heart. You almost have to, like, comfort it. Like, I understand why you don't like to use stops, Dan. Remember that one trade that you missed out on and you would have made 6 figures? It would have changed your life. Well, guess what? Not every trade's like that. And you talk to that version of you. And you talk to that inner voice that's just like, I just want to make $100,000. I just want to make $1 million. I mean, whatever. You name the number. I want to get rich. I want to succeed. You got to talk to that inner voice, because that inner voice, I'm telling you, is clouding your judgment, because not every trade's like that. But then as soon as you start winning, what voice starts popping up? Oh, remember when you held those trades, you start losing? Oh, you can't hold a winner. You got it. Nope. Holding stocks, you've been wrong. You give your gains back. No. I'm telling you guys, the wiring inside. And again, this book, I've read a lot of books. I thought this book to me is one of the most powerful, because it actually helps you understand. Like, people are like, oh, change, and there's a lot of books about self-help, but you really got to be what? You got to be aware of the voices. I'm telling you, we're just a fucking meat puppet that's responding to our subconscious wiring. And a lot of our subconscious developed between what? The ages of 0 and 7. No. Sorry, our subconscious started after that, but all of our wiring started from 0 to 7. And so what's ever wired in there is just like, it's not self-serving. Like, if you look at your life and you're not happy, you don't have the things you want, you are the only reason why it's not happening, right? Like at some point, again, I don't want to sound like a motivational speaker, but that's the reality is like, why can't you have that stuff? Because you don't believe it. That's a start, right? Like that's what I realized too, right? Like, I mean, I hope this makes sense. And again, I'm not trying to preach to like sell a book or some shit. I'm just trying to get you to understand like there's some part of you that if you're making mistakes constantly, you are choosing to do it over and over and over again. And until you pull up that, you know, again, go dig up the onion and open it up and look inside, pull the root out of the ground and look at it, you're not going to change. It's just a matter of when before you make the same mistake over and over. And how do people like, how do you know? Because I did that. I've done that. Been there. And sometimes there are mistakes that I thought I was done making. Hopefully people like there's the times where I thought like, oh, I'm done with that mistake. No. I read the book as well. I always knew there was voices now that I'm going to pay more attention. My voices don't talk to me though. They talk to other people all day in my head. I need to figure that out. Again, these voices come from subconscious wiring. They come from programming. They're premeditated beliefs. They're deep-seated processes and mental beliefs that you maybe have gotten through when you were a kid. Because there's some people literally, like I'm telling you right now, there was a part of me at one point that I did not think I deserved to win in trading. Because my grandfather, I think I've told you guys a story. He told us as kids we were born with a silver spoon in our mouth. Well, my grandfather went off to war. When he came back in his 40s, his dad had drained his savings account. He had no money, nowhere to live, and was basically homeless. And so, considering we didn't grow up homeless, he always said we were born with a silver spoon in our mouth. All right, well, that makes you feel like you're not worthy. Oh, you should have been homeless. Right? Shannon, let's talk for 2 seconds. Let me talk to you. I have 2 older sisters. The oldest hated me and still does, so I will be exploring possible weakness there. All right. My older sibling loved my brother. He hated me growing up. He absolutely tortured me. I tell people the story. Again, I'm not scared to talk about it. Those beliefs about myself and self-worth were defined as a child were terrible. They're absolutely, again, I have gone back and I've done meditation. I've literally like looked at, like, people are like, you know, I remember when I was a kid. I'm like, I don't remember when I was a kid. If you don't remember your life as a kid, there's probably a reason why your brain has deleted or stored those memories in a deep, dark hole. Yeah. And my brother, again, loved him to death, but he was not happy. He tortured me as a child, essentially. Didn't love me, hated me, and all I wanted was his love, right? And so what does that do to a child, right? Like, again, I had great parents, but imagine the person you spend the most amount of time with, your brother, just repulses and hates you. Like, think about how that wiring would create some sort of lack of self-worth, doesn't believe it, you know, thinks, again, fight or flight mechanisms. Like I got bullied, so my natural reaction, especially in my relationships, and this is why, again, people don't realize, like, I'm struggling, like right now, going through some relationships. Like, I didn't realize that my natural reaction with people I'm very close to and intimate, like a wife, not other people, not you guys, like you can't bother me at all, but people that I let my guard down to and I give them my full energy, if they attack and bully me, I have 2 reactions that I was wired to believe. I either would shut down, completely back off, go cold, just, you know, pretend like you're getting bullied and you're just, you shut down, or I'd fight back with all my heart. Like I would literally fight to the death to fight back. Well, how good is that in a real relationship? It's not good. It is not good. So, again, we could talk about this stuff for hours, but I'm telling you, this is the kind of stuff that you have to understand is actually controlling your trading and your processes. If there's some belief as lack of self-worth, well, do you seem to always self-implode? Do you seem to create mistakes over and over? Do you seem to do things that are just what? The same mistakes over? Because again, there's a deeper wiring. Do you believe you deserve to make $1 million? Ask yourself that question. And if you say it, and all of a sudden something in the back of your brain starts, you feel like a sensation or something feels off, I'm telling you, there's a part of your subconscious that doesn't believe it. You have to believe that and change that, and you have to dig into why. So when you say these things to yourself, I deserve to make $1 million trading. When you say it, how do you feel? What do you believe it? Or is there like some sort of like, I mean, as I say it sometimes, like there's like a heavy voice, like there's a heavy heaviness of saying it. Because at the end, I'm like, I'm thinking about it. Do I? Right? Does this make sense? Like, say that to your life. Like, and this is the thing. Like, I didn't realize some of this stuff, and I'm hoping that what I'd say is like my growth and understanding helps others. Because I'm telling you right now, like that stuff is way more important than the trading. Because again, all of us here know how to trade. We know how the market works. We know what a trend line is. We know oil. We know what candles. We know what green, wicks. We know Fibonacci's. We know all this stuff. But do we know how to actually succeed, right? So, all right, I'm going to do the daily market review, record that real quick. I appreciate it. Hopefully this feedback was helpful, man. Yeah, I'm telling you, like, again, take the Coulling link, hit me up. I'd love to, again, if you were struggling with this, I'm telling you, every mistake that's ever been made in trading, and that's why sometimes I laugh. My dad, he's like been doing this forever. He's like, man, he's like, I feel like you've made every mistake. And I'm like, I think I know why. Because there's some part of me that loves to teach and help. And so then I can understand. But also you will make every mistake in trading at some point because the market is it's got like what's the best way to describe it? I mean, it's just, again, it's the ultimate chaos game that is meant to take the most amount of money for the most amount of people. Comprende? Does this make sense? So once you realize that, you should feel like a deep relief. So I'm asking you to check out that book, Untethered Soul. Think about these voices. Think about what you believe. Like really go on your belief. Not like, because again, when you get into a trade, like no one gets into it to lose, right? But like, what do you believe about money? Like, what do you believe about yourself? What do you believe should happen? And if it's like, I can't lose, that's a problem. I have to win, that's a problem. So, all right. This is Dan Max at eXp Realty, aka the Trading Agent. This is your daily market review, Wednesday, October 4th, 2023. Been having a great conversation about the psychology of trading in the live chat, and we're going to do the quick review. If you're new to the channel, check out the Discord room. A link is in the description below. I appreciate everybody on YouTube. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Also, drop in these videos on their competitor, RBLE. Yeah, just so if you want to watch it anywhere, notification bell, check it out. Be aware. Also on the Twitter, posting trades. If you have any questions, again, don't be scared to reach out. Check out our website, thetradingagent.com. Back to Basic series in order from more beginner stuff to more advanced. Keep telling people, if you're worried about your broker going out, I like interactive brokers. There's a referral link. I can't remember what you guys get, but everyone wins from it. Again, do not have your money stuck in Schwab or TD. And if they go out of business, next thing you know, your funds, your puts, your calls, whatever are stuck. And next thing you know, they close your position out for a total loss. It happens. Also, too, if you want, I keep forgetting to update this, 5.4% Goldman. Remember, anything under 250, get that FDIC insurance. Fed Fund futures, I'm assuming we're staying at a pause. Yeah, pause. Bitcoin, we said, posted this last night, did not like the action from the previous day. Oil, and here's again, sometimes you're wrong. Do you chase it? No, but we expected this trend line, which sucks, is I was hoping we get a bounce then. I was thinking maybe head and shoulders, shampoo formation. We didn't get it. OPEC did nothing. I thought they were going to cut. Even if they just signified a little cut, I think the market would have reacted more bullishly. The oil numbers came out today, and the gasoline demand fell off a cliff. Not off a cliff, but the supplies grew a ton. So, again, I like oil on shorts. Natural gas, I don't even know why we talk about it, but somebody always asks, like, what do you think about natural gas long term? And I'm like, well, if they're burning it off out of their wells, it's probably not a good time for demand. The dollar, a lot of people are calling for the top for the dollar. I mean, I don't know. We're not seeing a ton of volume. I don't think there's a lot of conviction selling, in my opinion. Like, I'd like to see, just some more volume along the way. Like, literally, like, there's not a lot of conviction, so I don't necessarily trust it. However, it's been up 11 weeks straight. If it pulls back, okay. Bonds, as we talked about, extremely oversold. Due to bounce, inside day, big volume down here. I mean, this is what you'd be looking for a bottom potentially. But here's the problem. We know banks are trapped with bonds that have mark-to-market losses. I don't know if it's going to be I'm not expecting a V. How about that? Just be aware of that. The VIX Gets up into the 20 range. You know, I thought we'd get more up into this higher, but, you know, we got pretty much where I thought we were going to get. And guess what? Let me remove that. We pulled back. Okay. Well, remember, even in a, you know, when the market was, look at this. Like, you can, the VIX, this is why I always tell people, like, you don't need, you know, the VIX just isn't going to, like, you know, in a downtrend in the market. The VIX isn't just going to blow up every day. That's why I tell people, like, the UVXY, you got to be really careful about. Anyway, VIVIX, man, big $9 drop, close at the low of the day. Maybe we have some more continuation tomorrow with the up market. Just keep that in mind. Again, if you have positions, cash, capital, hopefully you're aware. SPY. Let me just curious. I didn't have the 10-minute up on another chart. I like watching the 10-minute at the close because we know who acts at the close. Okay. Yep. Okay. Yeah. SPY. Are you surprised it got close enough to 200-day? But here's the thing. I personally don't know if we're going to play a game or go lower, but in my opinion, near term, I think we do go lower. The 200-day, just, again, I don't know why we wouldn't just cut through it like butter. Like last time when we decided to cut through the 50-day, cut it like butter. Cut through the 100-day, cut it. Like, I don't know why we would stop here because, again, the market priced out with a recession, not really, in my opinion. QQQ, chopping around. Looks, I mean, again, it just sounds like Biden's time. IWM. We talked about having to hold the 170s. Nice little doge. I mean, it's extremely oversold. Can the market bounce? I guess going there, yeah. I just don't trust this stuff. Now, again, that's the thing. Pick and choose your battles here. Pick and choose your battles. I mean, this might be a trap. A couple days. Money might roll out of tech. I mean, we could see some things going on here. Maybe they roll into DIA that's been pulling back. Maybe it pulls again. Who knows? Just, again, whatever you do, define your risk. Don't go crazy. Gold, tighten it up down here with decent volume. I mean, it should bounce. I mean, you got the 3. I mean, you got 4 gaps. Man, you got so many gaps in the GLD, obviously. But you got oversold conditions. But do you want to go long? Do you want to be the hero? Have the Feds pivoted? Nope. Moving right on. Silver, same kind of thing. Do you want to be a hero? Do you want me to, like, have to put the straitjacket on you just to tell you just to leave it alone? Okay, I can do that. I mean, I'm not surprised. I was just thinking about when I saw that. I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. Do you want to trade that? Is that the best trade out there? Ask yourself. Maybe. I mean, maybe that's what you want to do, but I wouldn't. GDX, making new lows, chopping around again. Wait for the Feds to pivot. We talked about it. Go back and research older videos, or if you want, I'll send you a quick video of why. GDXJ, made new lows. AG, hey, it held 5 for now. Chopping around. AEM. Not acting as well, right? Man, it's multi-day ranging. Newmont, we talked about the leader of the pack, not leading so much. Look at this. Ooh. PAAS. Ooh. Back at the lows. I don't know. Your guess is good as mine. All right, Taiwan Stim. Let's get into some techie tech. Chopping around, making a higher low. I mean, this name is toast. I just don't know when they bust out the jam and jelly for it. Micron, again, if you short up at the 20-day, cool. It's just biding time. It looks, again, 20-day curving down. You got channeling. I mean, look at their earnings. Everyone knew they were crap. They're not going to get any better. I don't know why anyone's buying this except new money, new month, new quarter, trap game. Love the short on the pops. AMD popped today. Now, again, this one's been all over the place. Held the 200-day. Way off the high from the 130s. I mean, it seems that the 20-day is not as important as the 50-day. So if you're looking to short, did I just identify where it should be? Probably the 50-day. NVIDIA, we talked about Goldman upgrading this 2 days ago. Okay. Again, this thing's toast. I mean, if it just because it was up today, I mean, maybe, you might be able to back test the trend line, but it feels like it's toast. Intel got a lot of flack for telling people short the upper channel. Man, it didn't even give you like any time. It was just like, pow. Now it holds the lower channel, 20-day. Some people are talking about that as a short. Ay caramba, correcto. SMH. Here you go. Yeah, chopping around. I mean, there's not much to say sometimes. It's the hardest thing is like people want to fill the time and like be really, like my dad watched the video. He goes, your videos are really quick. You're talking through things. I'm like, sometimes there's just not a lot to say. You know, there's just not a lot to say here. Adobe chopping around. I mean, when does it roll? When the market rolls. Apple, as we said, just trying to hold on up here. Maybe it needs to hit that 175 tomorrow. Again, if you got bullets, I need to write that one down because that might be the most obvious thing. If Apple hits the 20-day, Kapow! I think it goes way below the 200 day at some point, kind of like it did when the 100 day. I mean, this channel, I mean, it's kind of too simple, but we'll see. I mean, maybe it's the titanium phone makes all phones turn into grenades. I don't know. Amazon, we talked about the 100 day. Now it's just chopping. CRM, holding the 200 range. If you shorted this post earnings, I mean, are you surprised? It's holding support for the moment. The market isn't unloading. Guggenheim, love the short up here. Back testing the channel. God, it's over the 20 day. Could we get back to the highs of 139? Now that has to be in your mind, potentially. Again, define your risk. I mean, I have my stops around like 137 and change, because you can see here. There's a lot of candle action around this level. Does it get there probably to trigger stops? Now it's feeling like it. I wish I would have probably paid a little more attention in the close, but is what it is. Meta, playing games, right? Chop, chop. I mean, it's just a matter of when, if not if. Not matter of if, not when. No, matter of when, not if. Microsoft, chop, chop. NDAQ, we talked about this breaking the channel. Cool. I mean, it's slightly oversold. I guess you can get people excited about it. Sure. I mean, whatever. MicroStrategy, I mean, Bitcoin, all over the, not overly, just again, the stock is going to get throttled. Netflix, I mean, even in up days like this, market's junk, or the stock is junk. Just let it base here. It's probably going to get smushed. Roblox, interesting day, 20 day, I mean, 50 day. Again, a lot of these stocks, I mean, some of them we follow just to let them wait out. Tesla, now some people took the short on it today. Now that, I mean, again, revisionist history, now it seems more obvious where they want to take it before it drops. Probably not necessarily going to, I don't know, fill the gap. But this area right in here, I mean, could you get the channel high? Again, I didn't short it, but I mean, trust me, it makes sense. I'm not going to sit here and criticize anyone because it makes absolute sense. Letter X, talked about this being a buyout candidate. It's holding up. Again, I wouldn't short it. I wouldn't go long it either. I don't know what the value of the buyout target would be. Probably somewhere like 33 or 35, not much higher. Nucor hit the 100-day, 50-day, 20-day. Exactly. We talked about failure. Caterpillar fills the gap. We talked about this is going lower. You can see the gap. It filled it. That's all right. Let it do its thing. This thing is probably going to look like Boeing at some point. Do y'all remember what Boeing looks like? Here, I'll show you real quick. This is like, you know, it's kind of like Morgan Stanley. Like, this is the downtrend you want to see at some point, where it's just like, you know, but some days they're going to have wicks. So are you going to cry about it? I hope not. FedEx, again, if you shorted this up in the 265s, I mean, somebody savvy was like, hey, man, I think about shorting. I'm like, just let it play, man. Look, you got at least a 50-day. Again, I think this thing's going to break. It's just, I don't like when it's down $3 or $4 at the open, you know, because if it does break, well, then you miss it. But always, even intraday, wait for the pops. VALE. That's my speech on that. VALE chopping around. I mean, this Arrow, we talked about, people are like, oh man, it's 15 might be a great deal. I agreed. But now with the VIX at 20 and the market barely down. No, I mean, this thing could get pounded. CCJ, we called the top. We said that was a double top up there. A trap high. I mean, again, it might be due to bounce from these levels, but again, it looks like it's short. To me, all materials, unfortunately, I think they're all going to get cooked because I think the Feds are going to try to apply the pressure and control the narrative. CF, before they pump in the liquidity. Mosaic, these all look the same. Just let them come on back. Come on back here. Come on back here. Let's drop. Here you go. Let this one drop. AA, I mean, I know some people bought it. I'm like, okay. Well, I mean, it's, again, you just own it for 3 days, I guess. All right. I mean, if that's what you want and you want to fight the trend, go right ahead. Financials, a little oversold. Not surprised at an inside day. Might be a chop day for a couple days. I don't know. Maybe not. JP Morgan, I know bank earnings coming up. I think is it next week or the following week? I can't remember, but they are coming up soon in October. Yeah, chopping around. Morgan Stanley, we talked about this being a total turd. Hitting the 200. Again, could these bounce? I don't know. Goldman breaks the trend, the channel. I mean, again, just because it's up today, does it necessarily mean it has to go higher? Carry. Again, if you short it, just, I mean, make sure you roll up your stops. You define your risk. Carry looks just bad. We talked about the XBI just looking horrible, right? Like, this should be a risk-on trade. I mean, it just keeps making lower lows and lower highs. I mean, ugh. Solar. Whoa! Solar had a green day. High five. I mean, this thing has gotten pounded. We talked about solar getting just trash. Sedge up 5 points. Man, if it could see the 20-day, maybe. I don't know. These names have been absolutely just destroyed. So they could. I don't believe in a bounce, but it'd be I mean, you really have to like. I mean, there's just no reprieve. This is hard again because it's like you don't know when at some point someone could trigger a headline or some article that they're going to get bought out and it's fake or it's bullshit. First Solar, same kind of thing. You're welcome. We talked about failure to launch. Talked about the Head and Shoulders top. Now you're at the next zone of Sopuerto. All right. Again, it just, we'll see. Patience. Again, the trends are down, but every day doesn't have to be down. Remember, even a downtrend, you have up weeks. Talked about corporate debt. Looks like crap. Oil. If you held on to your shorts, you were smarter than I. We talked about this being a top. Now you're back at some support. Don't be surprised if it, chops around, maybe bounces around. I don't know. Could get absolutely curb stomped too. XOP, shorted at 154 or 150. You're looking good. Now it's at the channel low. I mean, again, this is why I think there'll probably be a bounce, and I don't need a short oil. But I could be wrong. Look at that. ExxonMobil, right? Fill some gaps. See what happens. 50-day. I mean, this one's a little trickier, right? Let's look at some of the ones. Oxy. Gosh. I mean, it closed over 60, like barely. I mean, somebody's coming in here. MPC, again, gasoline, smash. But it did hold like the 140 area for now. You know, Valero, we talked about, again, all these gas names got cooked. But here it hits the 200-day to a T. Again, we like these shorts, but they might need a little more bounce. PX Dizzle got cooked. You're not surprised, right? We talked about this bounce here. Boom. EQT held up pretty well today, actually. Got to give it credit where credit is due. After coming down from 44. Flex LNG. Yeah, let this come in. I mean, I love this thing. I mean, if we're going to be natural gas exporters, because we ain't going green, this makes sense to me. All right. If you have any questions, again, please reach out. Use the Coulling link. I'm going to leave the open for a live chat after this for another couple minutes. Again, I love the psychology part of this because I think this by far is the definition of how to be successful in trading. It's not about whether you can line up a trade or not. It's how you execute. So let's keep it going. What do you guys got right now? If you have any questions about the market, you want to talk more about the psychology, again, do yourself a favor. If you have an issue and you want to talk about it, please don't be scared. Do not be scared to be vulnerable. I ask you very, very, with the most amount of care, love, and support. If you have an issue, do not be scared. Because again, you have to do, like what the process of fixing and changing things, you're going to have to do it on your own. Keep that in mind. You're going to have to do it on your own. But also too, if you have someone here who's willing to help you, take the free help. I would. If it was me, I would tell, in the roles reverse, I would just totally unload on somebody willing to give me the answers, potentially, to help me. So if not, I can just wrap it up. This has been going on for almost an hour. How are people feeling? Any thoughts, concerns, feedback? I appreciate all of it. Again, trying to make this genuinely valuable. Genuinely valuable, because I see the worth in it. You know, again, people are like, aren't you a real estate agent? Yeah, again, I'd love to help you with real estate, but I just know for a fact real estate's just going to be quiet. Now we're going after you get Labor Day, schools start. I mean, if you want to buy a house, I mean, this is the time to buy when the prices come down and you can just lowball. And if you're looking to sell, you're going to need very creative agent to help you get the best price and really pull out the best features in a house to sell it. But again, I mean, I think in time, when you make real money, you should buy passive income. Like, think of it like little 401ks. And I tell people all the time, if people aren't buying houses, the rent. It's going to go higher. I took out too much size on Goog today. Emotionally brutal. Okay, let's talk about that one because that's a good one. Like, I can relate to this. I think I got 15 puts on this. I mean, again, I could go much more aggressive at this point if I wanted, but again, I'm keeping capital. But I started off thinking I'd only have like maybe 8, and I just doubled it because I'm like, I'd like it long term. I gave myself 3 weeks. Again, what's your timing on this, Brian? Like what? I mean, I think I paid $3 or $4 on them. I mean, it's not end of the world money, but it again, everyone's different. how much time? Like, because that's the hardest thing is if people shorted Google and you gave yourself the end of the week. This is what I always tell people, like, give yourself a little more time, even if it's just a scalp. Unless it's like you're expecting immediate action. But then even then, you should probably have, you're going to have tighter stops. 10, 20? Okay, well, I mean, you got time. It's just hopefully you got at the money or in the money. If you have like the 132s, yeah, October, what option though? Because this might be the biggest problem here. Are you in the money? Because a lot of options traders, and again, I'm not going to assume this for you, but in general, buy options out of the money and then they get destroyed when the stock doesn't immediately move in their favor because the premiums get destroyed because they're out of the money. There's no intrinsic value for that option or particular option for that stock. So that's where, again, yeah, I missed a sell by. Lighten up. Oh, that's, yeah. Well, what price strike do you have? Because sometimes it's going to be out of the money. Yeah. That's the problem. That's the problem. You buy cheap options, they will liquidate them on any move against you by time or by price. Like, they absolutely penalize because there's no intrinsic value. That's why I always tell people, like, if you're buying out of the money options, you got to be willing to lose it all, obviously. Willing to lose it all. Like, that needs to be in the back of your mind. Willing to lose it. Oh, the 125s. Holy shit. Yeah, your options got crushed. Yeah, like, that's just, you can't do that. And I'm not trying to be mean by any means, but again, here, I'll try to roll up my rules on options. Like, you buy, even 3 weeks out, the 125s, again, the deltas on those are going to be all, I mean, everything is just wrong about that. And if you want, I can be completely brutally honest, like why it's all wrong. Will this blow up? Nope, that didn't work out. Again, I have my rules on the website. If you want to check them out, it's in the reference articles for options. But when you buy so far out of the money, short dated, you have to remember, even if it dropped to 130 and then it bounced around from 130 for like a couple days, or maybe it just didn't remember the velocity of the move. If the velocity of the move does not continue to push up the intrinsic value, the IV, then your option is going to get crushed. So buying 125 puts, I mean, you're not going to make money more times than not. And again, this is where you have to put the odds in your favor and do less options and buy at the money or in the money, in my opinion, because if it works, at least you're going to get paid. Even what if it's just only down $2 or $3 and then something happens and the Feds announce liquidity, something. I mean, this is why I say this, because like I've been caught in these traps where I'm like buying out of the money puts and I'm really hoping to hit the home run. When it's like, I'd rather have a single and let it turn into a double, triple, or a home run versus just swinging for a home run. Because if I swing like I'm going to hit a home run, I strike out more times than not. And then I lose all of my money in the options potentially. And so buying this far out of the money, I mean, again, what is the intrinsic? Let me just pull this up real quick. I'm just curious to know what the pricing is on this thing. Let me type some stuff in on my other screens. I mean, this is just a bad trade by any means. I would not do this myself, ever. Just, I mean, never. And people go, whoa, why? That's pretty aggressive, Dan. Like, why would you not do that? Well, I mean, it's basically a lottery. Oh, come on, why can't I remember that login for that? Is that it? Yeah, okay. You have so many different logins, right? It's just a bad strategy because, again, it puts yourself in odds that you, like, what's the pricing? What's the pricing on these things? 120, 1020. Come on, the 125s. You paid 40. I mean, you could have. Yeah, you got lottery tickets. You bought them in the 40-cent range, probably 50 cents. But here's the problem: is like that option is going to go zeroed out or get cut in half unless the market dives and the VIX expands and the IV blows up. And then even if it does, the delta is 0.09. It's 9 cents for every dollar it moves. So if it went from 136 down to 125, your implied gain is 90 cents to some. And again, we know the delta will increase as it gets closer, but $2 or $3 again. So that's one of those options where you can make 500-600%, right? Like if it goes. But here's the thing, like, and dude, I appreciate you bringing this up. If you don't mind, I want to get into the psychology of this more than the trade, because again, I think it's not a good trade. Like it's a high risk, high reward. Now, again, if you want to do that with a small amount of money, knock yourself out. I just tell people like how you treat a small amount of money is how you will treat large amounts of money. That's the biggest conundrum I share with people. If Eric's still around, go over the mic. That's the biggest thing. Like if you're willing to gamble with small amounts, at some point you have like this gambling mentality. And so if you can handle being able to be a gambler sometimes and then not, good for you. I personally find that once I get into a gambling mindset, I'm probably going to stay in it. And what that means to me is that once I start making more money, I'm going to start risking more and not going to be worried about preserving it. And so when you see man, this is so hard. When you see those options, they feel like they're free money, but they're more like lottery tickets. They're worthless. Because unless there's a huge move, which again, I hope and pray it does, maybe. But even if the market didn't move today, I mean, again, you're if it would have dropped to 133, I mean, the options may have gone to 50 or 60 cents. Which, I mean, percentage-wise might seem good, but it's like, did you really want to risk that much on a probability that if it, again, because if it just didn't go anywhere, think of it as like, one of those time clocks with sand, and it's just like the sand is draining out. And it's just, unless it's going in your favor, like you're not getting any more sand. Like the time is now draining too. And so, when there's no intrinsic value in an option, time burns just as much as the price action. And now that you have no intrinsic value because it's so far out of the money, it's just the way the market makers can like scrape off layers out of retail traders. And I've done this. And this is why I just warn people, like if you want to do it with a small amount of money that you're willing to lose completely everything on, go right ahead. If that scratches that itch, let's talk about the itch though. Because where does this work out? Did this work out for you one time? A couple times? Like how many times have you bought way deep out of the money options a couple weeks out and just hit home runs? Because that might be actually where the psychology of this is rooted in failure eventually. Because what's going to happen, and again, this is just my personal experience and what I've seen with lots of traders. Say you did this with like $400 or something, or 500, and you bought 10. Well, I don't know, whatever. Maybe you did with $4 or $5 grand, and you turned it into $25,000. If you aren't able to pull back that mindset, what you'll do is you'll do the same thing, but with maybe a different option and a different stock, but the same strategy, and it just costs more. And instead of it being 40 or 50 cents, maybe you're now buying, puts that are $4 or $5 out 20 days, 3 weeks, whatever, on a stock that could move 30 or 40 points. But then when it doesn't, those options get absolutely destroyed. Then you just lost 50% of it. Well, so Brian, if you really want to fix this, you just got to tell yourself you're not into this to gamble. And this is how you do it. You got to talk to yourself. Like what voice in your head rationalizes this is the right thing to do? Let me drop the book that I really want people to check out. It's called The Untethered Soul. And I know people are like, Untethered Soul, what does that have to do with trading? Again, as I joked in earlier, if you listened or were around, you realize that we're just basically a bunch of meat puppets to the voices in our heads. Like we just react to them. That's all we are. And if you can't recognize that you have certain fundamental voices that are controlling you, oh God, I gotta enter in a password. Give me 2 seconds. And you're doing things unconsciously, problems ahead. 674-917. Yeah, they give you those little temporary passwords. And so if those voices are actually in charge, you got a problem. You got a huge problem, because now you're running on autopilot. And whether you believe it or not, right? I mean, again, you're a smart guy. You probably know what you're doing. Why does it make sense to do something that you know probably has a low probability of winning? Does this make sense? Like, what in your brain says that, you know what, this is probably the best thing I should do? There's the link. And if you know it's a low win rate, should you go aggressively, right? Like think about like the logic here. Like, it's like talking to a child, and that's what I try to explain to people. Like, that's kind of what is going on in your brain. You're talking to the inner child, or some sort of soul. Again, remember, there's like parts of us like that's just in pain, or trying to prove itself, or lack self-worth, or trying to get recognition or love. I mean, a lot of stuff goes down to love. But if you get caught in this mindset of being aggressive when the odds are low, all it takes is one win to make you think that you have somehow, you've absolved the odds. Like, that's how the brain's going to start working. That's why I tell people, like, that's why casinos, like, you know, beginner's luck. That's why beginner's luck is the casino's best friend. Because once you get a beginner in there and they go, blackjack's easy, well, they come back and they're going to lose it all. Oh, roulette's easy. They lose it all. That's the problem in trading, is you get into tendencies. I'm saying you, me, all of us, where we start winning with low probability trades, and the next thing you know, we start thinking we're above the probabilities and we're smarter in the market. And I'm just, again, this is for everybody who's listening. Cut that shit out. You just got to stop doing it. And if you want to do it and you feel like you have to do it and you have an itch that you got to scratch, then just be prepared to lose it all. Because that's typically what happens with these circumstances or big losses. And so there's an inner voice somewhere inside of you that's like, you know, gambling's dangerous, but it wants to gamble. Well, what does that voice feel? Sometimes it's an addiction to like the cortisol. It's addiction to like the action. It's the addiction to the potential of hitting a home run and being a fucking genius and thinking like, look, I just turned $500 into 5,000. That inner voice needs to be talked to. And this is what this book talks about, like Done to the Soul, like talking to those inner voices. And this relates to trading, because that's what I think a lot of people don't realize. Like they get like, again, Brian, if you would have showed me that trade, I would have been like, no, like instantaneously. But you somehow could convince yourself that. And I guarantee if like the roles were reversed and I brought to you a trade that made no sense, you'd be able to recognize in me that this was all emotional. This wasn't like logical. This didn't make sense. Like, because people, that's the thing. Like, you know how it is. It's always easier to help people out than help yourself. Do we all recognize that natural pattern? Right? It's always easier to help others than to help yourself. Well, it's no different in trading. Does this make sense? Like, you could look at your former self, and that's why talking to yourself and like creating a personality of someone you're talking to that's this inner voice really helps, because again, it's so much easier to give advice and talk to somebody else than yourself. But if you're just like talking to yourself, and when you close your eyes and you almost like meditate, like there's not a person there, it's like you're talking to an empty room and there's no one there. But if you can personify, Brian has a gambling mentality persona, well, what does that person look like? Who is that? For me, I can tell you mine. So my middle name's Robert. I have an alter ego that I call him Bobby, because he's a reckless gambler. He's like, again, I have cousins and uncles from New York. Like they're fucking nuts. That's the kind of shit they do. They're reckless. And so think about it like I can personify that belief, those patterns into a personality that I can talk to. Because again, if you don't do that, it's like talking to nobody. But if you know like psyches, and you understand like your child self and your your wounded warrior self. And like, there's different parts of your psyche that are made up into different personalities. Again, like everyone has multiple personality disorder, essentially, right? Like you have your child version of yourself. You have like your teenage version. You have your, your first loved, like what first love like felt to you like, right? You have your relationships with your parents, like all this kind of crap. I mean, it's all in there. And so if you could recognize like, all right, I have a gambling demon, whatever you want to call it, gambling personality. I need to talk to this motherfucker right now. And we need to talk about why. And we need to see like, hey man, this is not good for us. You're a smart guy, gambling personality. Let's talk. All right, well now you need to convince the inside gambler like you would talk to anyone else. And next thing you know, once you let that gambler, and I know this sounds so crazy, but I'm telling you this shit works and this is what the therapist would do. Once you talk to that version of yourself and you let that version of itself explain why it feels like it needs to gamble. Again, it's like you become the therapist and your alter ego or personality now gets to speak about why. Now you can talk to it and fix this shit. And I'm telling you, this is some of the most powerful stuff that nobody understands. Because again, this gets people hooked to making mistakes or hooked to pills. Like this is what you have to do. Well, think about what gets you to just do, again, out of the money. Like, is it a personality thing? Like, are you just trying to hit home runs? And if you're trying to hit home runs, what does that say about you? You trying to make up losses? Because I've been there. I know that feeling. Like, I remember, one point I made like $1 million and I lost it back down to $100,000. And then I felt like I had to be super aggressive to get back to back to $1 million account. And that, what do you think that did? That wasn't the way to do it. I wasn't going to hit home runs. I couldn't turn every pitch into a home run. And so that's where you have to acknowledge within yourself. There's some part of you, personality, trait, persona that you got to just confront. And you got to let it talk. Do not talk to it like it's an idiot. And that's the problem a lot of people do is they try to shun their, like, these psyches. Like, you stupid, you dipshit. I can't believe you would gamble like that. Like, if you talk to yourself like that or that inner psyche, no. That doesn't fix it. Like, you got to get to, like, the why. And write this down. Why? Why do I feel like I have to do that? Why does my alter, and again, we'll talk about myself. Like, why does Bobby, feel like he has to gamble? Well, Bobby at one point remembers times where it was just like, man, when you were winning and you were gambling hard and then you just were up, it's such a good feeling. You felt like you owned the world. You felt like you couldn't lose. You felt like you were the market. It gave you such a high self-esteem and self-worth. But then what always happens? Pride before the fall. Right? And so now that I can recognize that, I'm like, all right, tell me, Bobby, like why do you want to instill this belief into me that this is always right? And then eventually what I did is I talked myself, that person, out of that gambling habit. And now that's not a part of me. Does this make sense how to do? On paper, it might sound a little wild, but I'm telling you, this is kind of what you have to do. You become your own therapist of your other psyches. And I'm saying it over again. People are like, you're repeating yourself. If you don't think it works, try it out. Or hit me up on Calendly. I will guide you through it and talk to you about it. Because I'm telling you right now, it's going to help a lot. Because a lot of people sometimes have self-worth issues. Like they don't think they deserve to win. Like, maybe they think money is equated to like love and success. And some part of them doesn't think they deserve that. And so guess what? They always self-destruct. I told you guys I have that little trait that I picked up from my grandfather. This is all real stuff. Again, Eric, if you're still around, learning to trade is easy. Trading is hard. Why is trading hard? It's all psychology. All right. I'm going to wrap it up if there's no more questions. Hopefully this has been incredibly helpful. This is the kind of stuff that I really am passionate about helping with because, again, we can post winners and we can try to get some good trades out there and do the best we can all the time, right? Like that's all we're trying to do, but it's how you react under pressure. What do you do? Like I said, I talked about in the beginning, when war starts, like everyone has a plan until the guns starting to get fired. Like when you hear bullets going off, now you're going into your fight or flight. You're unconscious thinking like, what do you baseline go to? And if you're sitting in here trading, next thing you know, you're trading, and I'm like, for me, like I'm trading as this persona of a gambler. Man, guess what I'm doing? I'm going all in. I'm going short heavy. I'm going long heavy. I'm just like, I don't care if the Feds speak next week. I'm going heavy short now. Fuck it. I don't care. No, this is about my ego. And 9 times out of 10, I lose. But remember, I did win once. So that's where I believe that. But then it's like that belief, total turd. So I love you guys. I appreciate all the love, the support, generous donations. Again, I never charge anything. I don't care. I want to help people because, again, at some point, you're going to give me the winning trades. I always tell people, or if you can't do that, then share this stuff to maybe someone who might be able to use it and kind of learn something. Because, again, I'm telling you, there's a reason why 95% of traders fail. If you didn't know that, look it up. All right, you guys have an amazing night. I appreciate you guys.